I was just hanging out in my greenhouse checking things out, and Kitten George decided to hang on the door and demand attention, so I've let him into the nice warm greenhouse. It's really yucky outside, wet and cold, and has been for days. Not cold enough to be freezing, close to it, and just it's rained so much. And actually I just checked our 10-day forecast, and we have a couple of nights next week that are going to be significantly below freezing. Something like 20 or so degrees Fahrenheit, which is like -8 Celsius. Pretty cold, and I am double checking that I can keep my greenhouse warm enough. That's not gonna work for me, Mr. Man. You gotta stay down there, you're gonna go outside. Does everybody else just talk to their cats and their dogs and their animals like they can respond? The reason why I'm a little concerned about the cold is because of this. That beautiful little sprig of life there is my first eggplant of the season. My peppers and eggplants are all coming up. I've got lots of leeks coming up, as well as calendula. Those would be okay if it got a little below freezing in the greenhouse. However, the peppers and eggplants are very, very frost tender. They're on a heat mat, but right now I've just turned on this little space heater out here, and I'm gonna kind of test tonight when it gets down to near freezing and see how warm that's able to keep the space. Kitten George just can't help himself. He's got to get all up in everything that he's not supposed to be in. Is that right, sir? Is that right? You're banished, man. I love you, but you're not hanging out in here. I could just see the glint in his eyes whenever he was looking at this nice mat of Pro Mix that's full of pepper seeds. He's just like, he wants to get in it. Now, over here, you'll notice my brassicas are doing really well. Getting the fan in here made such a massive difference. I just put this little oscillating fan over in the corner of the greenhouse, and it really doesn't do a lot. I've got it turned off now because I didn't want to have the heater and the fan going at the same time and flip a breaker. But you can see that these are all standing up really straight and tall, and they really don't move that much with the fan. It literally, they look like this, like, I mean, just barely moving. But it has forced these stalks to really strengthen up to have that little bit of wind moving them. Benjamin, bless his little heart, turned on the faucet last time we were out here, and it was just barely dripping. But when I came out, that tray was sitting here in this bottom tray and was so full that these poor plants were like, no more, please. They were drowning. So I moved them over there so they could dry out, and they're obviously doing fine. And I actually moved one tray out experimentally and I went ahead and planted them under my row covers to see how they would fare. And then since then, all it's done is rain. They're under the row covers, and they're doing really well. Let's go take a look at those. So let's look. There you go. Got lots of little kales out there. Now this big one over here on the right was left over that regrew from a stump after some deer ate it down in the fall. But yeah, all these kales are out there. They've been out here for 2 days, and so it looks like all is well with this. Oh look, a little worm friend. Go back in, little worm. This is the reality of my farm right now. Everywhere you go, I'm pretty much living in my muddy boots. Now I'm really excited because today I have been going through my seed collection to decide what tomatoes to plant for spring. And I've got it narrowed down. Narrow is a word that probably doesn't fit well with the amount of seeds that I'm planning on starting. It's far from a narrow collection, but I have narrowed it down from what it was, which is a lot more. I will share with you guys whenever I come down to exactly what I am doing, I'll share with you what I'm starting and why I'm starting them. That's going to be a really long video, to be honest. I did the top 10 because that was something that would kind of be a little more easy to chew on for those of you who weren't looking for like a tomato explosion. But I know that you guys are going to ask me for the full list, and so I will give you the full list of what I decide to start whenever I get down to that. So what I'm doing now, and actually what I came out here for, and I need to go up to the other greenhouse as well, is I need to get my stuff together because I'm going to start my tomatoes inside. I already have the peppers out here. I'm going to assess and see, make sure that I can keep it warm enough out here for them. I think that they will be just fine with the heater running. I think that I'll be able to keep it warm enough in here, and then when you consider an extra 15 to 20 degrees in soil temp with that heat mat, which this heat mat is new to me this year. It's from Haas Tools. It's one of their really big ones, and it is really, really nice. We actually have 2 of these, and you can hook them up to a thermostat and really have a lot of control. I have it just directly plugged in right now, and I'm really liking it. It's keeping the soil quite warm, and I've got these starting trays as well. Really liking these. I'm actually going to be starting my tomatoes in these same trays as well. Now these are plug trays, so obviously anything you start in here is going to have to be transplanted out. And kind of how I typically do things when I start seeds is I will actually start a few in each one of these. With tomatoes, they can handle a little manhandling, and so I'll start a few seeds in each one, and then they'll sprout. And once they have their first little true leaves, I'll separate them and put them in individual cups, like I've got these things over here growing. It never fails whenever I post anything about what's growing in my greenhouse. I get a lot of comments about the plastic and people being like, that's really awful. I don't use a ton of plastic. We are actually pretty mindful about that. And what we eat and drink out of is never plastic. However, with the case of starting plants, I start thousands of plants. I fill up my whole garden. Now we're growing for our in-ground gardens out back, which is going to be a lot of space, and I sell a lot of plants. So for me, trying to do like newspaper pots or just reusing containers and stuff like that, it's not really feasible. So my stance is this. I use high grade food quality plastics from places like Haas. These are very high quality things. I have, you know, my Bootstrap Farmer trays, which I've shared with you guys over the last couple years. They're all doing great. I use things that are not single use. I'm going to use these for years. I've been using some of the stuff that I have for multiple years. And my thing is, if I have to use plastic, if that is the most economical purchase for me, I want it to be something that is not single use, that I'm going to get to use year after year. And that's the case with these. These are really nice. I'm going to be using these for a long time. The OG original greenhouse. Can you believe this rosemary? This thing was dead as a doornail, and I pulled it out of the pot to reuse the pot, and I just set it here, like planning on trying to do something with it, and it just rerooted and came back to life. I'm going to move it down to the perennial garden once we get the ground in down there. Okay, so we just put our bunny out here. Kids have been hanging out in here with him, but Ezra's having some respiratory stuff, and we didn't think having the bunny in their room was a good idea. Hey, Mr. Newt. What's up, little guy? And I've been out here a pretty good deal, so he's still getting his daily treats and snuggles. But this greenhouse has not seen any action since the window greenhouse went in. However, I am planning on using it this year. I'm still planning on growing stuff out here. I think this is going to be like the step down. Once things, I just can't keep it as warm as the other greenhouse, so I'm not gonna start things in here, but once we're kind of like warming up a little bit and there's not so much risk of a hard frost, I think that I might move things once I stretch out. I'm going to fill up the other greenhouse with as many plants as I'm starting, so I'll have to use this. I'm just not gonna be starting anything in here. I'll just move it in once it's a little more established. Yeah, I just am out here going through all of this stuff. I already took the other house trays in the house and I forgot about it. All right, back into the warm, toasty basement. Got a fire going, and I've got a ridiculous amount of seeds spread out all over the place. Now, I'm not gonna go through and list off all of these seeds right now, because like I said, I'm gonna do that in a later video. However, I would like a little bit of input from those of you who are planning on attending our shindig. Now, we have the shindig coming up. It's April 3rd and 4th, the first weekend in April, Friday and Saturday. It's going to be a really incredible event here in Central Arkansas at the White County Fairgrounds. I'll put a link below to a video our friends, the Vincents at BW Family Farms. We co-host the shindig, and they did a video with all the information. It'll have a link to ticket information, so check that out if you're interested in attending. I'm going to be selling my started plants at the shindig. There's going to be a big seed swap, cool sponsors with giveaways, wonderful Q&A panels with some of your favorite YouTubers. It's going to be really amazing. And I have decided that what I'm going to do for the sake of simplicity is I'm starting a lot of tomatoes for my garden, but I'm going to start 10 kinds of tomatoes for the shindig. And I'm just going to bring big trays of those, of some of my favorites. However, I don't know that it's going to be the top 10 necessarily from my list, because I don't think I have enough seeds of all of those, and I don't know that I can get them in time. So if there's a variety that you've seen me grow before, something that you know that I like, that you really want to see for sale at the shindig, please leave a comment down below so that I can make sure and get, if there are any fan favorites that really need to be there, that I can make sure that they're there. I'm gonna have some other things other than tomatoes as well, some of my other favorite plants started for you guys, but I wanna make sure that I have the favorites. Of course, I'm gonna do like Dr. Ritchie's, and I have a few others that I think are like definites, but if there's something that you like would really expect from me, please make sure you put it down below. I honestly just am a little bit stunned that we're down to seed starting time again, like that it's time to start tomatoes again. The last year, it just is like, wow. I just so vividly remember clearly anticipating the middle of February rolling around last year so that I could get the seeds started, and all those seeds have already grown and borne fruit and died away with winter, and here we are again. It's honestly, it's a very encouraging thing to me, like the realization of how quickly these seasons come and go. I know I say this all the time and I probably sound like a broken record, but like, I love to encourage you guys to try things and to not be intimidated of process and of making mistakes, but truly invest yourself, like get into it, get passionate about it. But if something doesn't work out, just know it's okay. Like, there will be another season to start seeds. There will be another time to try again. I think we can get so overwhelmed by the idea of like, oh, we have this window to do this, and we've got to get this in the ground by this time, and oh, this messed up, or I dropped my seeds on the ground, and I can't tell you. I mean, like, I remember one year like starting everything, one of my early years in gardening, starting everything, and then one of my boys was a toddler at the time, one of my older boys, and like I had all my seedlings in a windowsill, and he knocked them all down, and they were largely, they died, and there was no time to restart them. And I just remember how so massively discouraging it was, because it was like, there was my chance. But like now, you know, 10, 11 years has passed since that instance, and I've grown a lot of seeds since then. And even now, going through the seeds that some of these packages I looked at last year and debated, should I grow that this year? And here I am again, doing it again. And it's encouraging. It's encouraging to know that if there is a mistake made or a window missed, all is not lost. It will come back around. So I am enjoying these last few weeks of the in-between of outside and inside, and sitting by the fire, warming up from the cool days outside, and knowing that we're so close to having our hands in the soil every day again. So thank you guys for hanging out with me briefly today, and checking out what's going on inside my greenhouses. I'm excited to share this upcoming season with you. I bless you. Until next time.